Hi, this is Brian from Northwest Bronco. Today we're going to be talking about vehicle refrigerators, more specifically the Dometic in a Ford Bronco. Alright, so you finally got your Bronco and you're ready to go overlanding. You've been on YouTube watching videos and you see a lot of people with refrigerators in the back. So what we're going to talk about are the advantages of a refrigerator and also 3 different ways to power them. Okay, there are disadvantages to a vehicle refrigerator, and that is they are very expensive, but that's the only disadvantage I can think of. The positives are you don't have to stop and get ice anymore. So you can go on and on and on driving and you don't have to worry about getting ice. Another thing is that without that ice in the cooler, now you have a lot more room in your cooler for food and drinks. And of course, another reason would be they are a lot lighter. You're not hauling around, basically the equivalent of 4 or 5 bags of ice in the back of your rig anymore. These are nice and lightweight. All right, now that we talked about the advantages and disadvantages to a vehicle cooler, now we're going to talk about the 3 basic, most common ways to power them. Now this is going to be a little bit specific to my Ford Bronco, but these techniques will also work for other vehicles. Okay, the cooler that I chose to run in my Bronco is the Dometic CFX35. And the reason why I chose this cooler is because, as you can see, it goes right to the edge of the back door and it basically almost touches the back seat. So this is the perfect size cooler for a Bronco. You can't really go any bigger without putting your back seats down. Okay, let's get started talking about how to power your fridge. Now I went ahead and turned the fridge around so you can see what I'm doing. Now remember, the fridge and the Dometic power supply all come with the cords that you need to do everything that I'm going to explain. So first we're going to start with the easiest way to power your fridge. That's to simply get the one cord that comes with your fridge that plugs in the back of the refrigerator and the 12-volt plug. Take that 12-volt plug and simply put it in the 12-volt connection in the back of your Bronco. That's going to be the easiest way to power your fridge. Now, the advantage of that is that it's very simple. The disadvantage is that when your vehicle is not running, your fridge is not getting power. But the Bronco is clever enough that you'll have power going from that plug into your fridge for 1 hour after you turn the ignition off. So what a trick I like to do is when I get to camp, if I'm running this way, is I simply turn the ignition on and off before I go to bed and then turn it on and off again when I wake up in the morning, and that'll kind of get the thing started cooling down. Now these fridges will hold their temperature for hours, but if you were to unplug this and run it in the middle of the night, it's going to keep your food fresh all night, even not plugged in. Okay, let's talk about the second way to power your fridge, and that is with a separate power supply. Now, I use a Dometic power supply because I have a Dometic fridge, and I know they're going to be compatible with each other. You can use other power supplies as long as it has the proper plugs and that's rated for this type of activity. All right, don't forget, if you buy a Dometic power supply and a Dometic fridge, these items are going to come with all the cords you need to be able to do this. So how this works is you have one cord that goes from the back of the fridge into the power supply, and another cord goes from the back of the power supply and into the side of your Bronco. All right, let's talk about how this system works. Now the Bronco and these items are going to take care of themselves when you use this system. So you're not going to have to get out, turn things on and off, or unplug things. The Bronco and these items are going to do it for you. So how it works is, when you're driving down the road, the power supply is charging and the fridge is running off your Bronco. Now when you're stopped, the fridge is going to be running off your power supply. And then when you get going again, it'll change itself over, and then the fridge is running off the Bronco and the power supply is charging. Now don't forget though, you do have 1 hour of power coming from your Bronco out of that 12-volt plug. So if you just stop to eat for a half an hour, these items are still going to work as if the vehicle was running. Okay, here's an important note. Anytime you can, try not to use your 12-volt plug in the 12-volt outlet right here, because a lot of times this will wiggle loose and you could be hours down the road before you find out your fridge isn't running. Instead, use the optional 2-prong, which goes right into the port next to it, and then it screws into place to lock. That way it won't come out. Okay, here's an important note. When you get all your cords and you're going to do just what I said about that 2-prong plug, don't forget though that you have to unscrew this to get to your 2-prong plug. So don't forget that you have to do that, because when I got the cords, I tried to use this system and I thought I was missing a cord, but in reality, I just had to unscrew this to find it. All right, one quick note about the power supply is how long does it last? Well, in the morning when I wake up, I have about 40% of power left in that power supply. So that'll give you some idea. Also, I have a video below on how I keep warm at night using an electric blanket in my sleeping bag. This power supply runs that sleeping bag I think it's up to 11 hours. So you have plenty of power in this thing, and it really, really works well. It also has a couple of USB ports on it so you can charge other items, and it comes with a couple of spare fuses. And what I do is just tape them on the back to make sure I don't lose them. Okay, let's talk about the third way to power your fridge, and that is to simply connect it directly to your battery, or even go one step further and have the option of using an auxiliary switch in your cab to turn the power off if you want to. I would do that if my fridge lived in my vehicle all the time, but mine doesn't. It lives on a shelf, and then when I go out, I put it in the vehicle. All right, let's talk about a quick hack before we get going. Typically, I will plug in my fridge and my power supply to the wall in my house because I want to power that power supply before I leave, and I also want to cool down that fridge before I leave. So I will use the provided cords, and I will connect both of these to the house and go ahead and get that charged up and get this cooled down, and then in the morning, I just throw everything in the car. I have a full charge of my battery, and I also have a nice cool fridge. All right, hopefully you found the video useful. If you did, give it a like, maybe subscribe for some more content in the future. I'm going to put links to both these items below so you know where to find them. If I miss anything or if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments below. I'm happy to get back to you, and I'll see you next time.